How ancient humans made fire. Today, creating fire takes only a few seconds. A lighter, a match, a stove, or even a simple button can produce heat almost instantly. Because of that, most of us rarely stop to think about what life would be like without it. But for most of human history, fire was not a convenience. It was survival. Without fire, there was no cooked food, no warmth during freezing nights, no protection from predators lurking in the darkness, no way to expand into colder parts of the world. In many ways, the story of fire is the story of humanity itself. Long before cities, long before agriculture, and long before civilization, our ancestors lived in a world that was both beautiful and terrifying. The days were spent searching for food, water, and shelter. The nights were something else entirely. When the sun disappeared below the horizon, darkness took over. There were no lamps, no flashlights, no electric lights glowing in the distance. Only the sounds of the wilderness, the rustling of leaves, the distant calls of animals, and the constant uncertainty of what might be hiding just beyond sight. For early humans, darkness was more than an inconvenience. It was danger. And in that dangerous world, nothing was more valuable than fire. Yet there was a time when humans could not create it. Imagine seeing a forest burning after a lightning strike. Imagine watching flames spread across the landscape. To ancient humans, fire must have appeared almost magical. It produced light without the sun, heat without movement, and power unlike anything else in nature. At first, our ancestors likely encountered fire through natural events. Lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions, wildfires caused by extreme heat. Rather than creating fire themselves, they may have taken burning branches from natural fires and carried them back to their camps. Keeping those flames alive would have become a critical responsibility. If the fire went out, finding another source could take days, weeks, or even longer. For some groups, protecting fire may have been just as important as finding food. The people who watched over the flames carried an enormous responsibility. A single mistake could leave an entire group without warmth, light, or protection. Over time, humans became skilled at maintaining fire. But maintaining a fire and creating one from nothing are very different challenges. The ability to make fire whenever needed would become one of the most important skills ever developed by our species. It would change the way humans ate, the way they traveled, the way they lived, and ultimately, the future of civilization itself. But discovering how to create fire was not easy. In fact, it was one of the most difficult skills any human could learn. For thousands of years, ancient humans experimented with different ways to create fire. Unlike modern tools, there were no guaranteed methods, no instruction manuals, no teachers standing nearby. Everything had to be learned through observation, practice, and countless failures. One of the earliest methods involved friction. The idea sounds simple. Rub two pieces of wood together until enough heat is produced to create an ember. In reality, it was far more difficult than most people imagine. The wood had to be the right type. It had to be dry. The surrounding material had to be prepared carefully. Even a small mistake could ruin the entire attempt. Hours of effort could end with nothing more than sore hands and frustration. One common technique was known as the hand drill. A thin wooden spindle was placed against a wooden base. The spindle was then rolled rapidly between the palms while applying downward pressure. As the wood rubbed together, tiny particles collected in a small notch. If enough heat was generated, those particles would begin to glow. Not with flames. Not yet. Only a tiny ember. And that ember was incredibly fragile. A slight breeze could destroy it. Moving too quickly could extinguish it. Even after successfully creating an ember, the hardest part was often still ahead. The ember had to be transferred into a bundle of dry plant fibers. Grass, bark, leaves, anything capable of catching a spark. Then came another challenge. The person had to blow gently. Too little air and nothing happened. Too much air and the ember died. Success required patience, skill, and experience. For many people, it could take dozens of attempts before producing a single flame. Over time, humans developed more advanced methods. One of the most effective was the bow drill. This invention dramatically increased efficiency. A wooden bow, connected to a cord, allowed the spindle to rotate much faster than human hands alone. The result was greater friction and a better chance of creating fire. In some cultures, mastering the bow drill became an important survival skill. Children often learned the technique from older family members. Knowledge was passed down through generations, not through books, but through demonstration and practice. Each successful fire represented centuries of accumulated experience. Every spark carried knowledge from countless ancestors. And yet, even the best techniques could fail. Rain could soak materials, humidity could ruin dry tinder, strong winds could extinguish flames before they grew large enough to survive. For ancient humans, making fire was never guaranteed. Every successful flame was an achievement. This constant struggle explains why fire became one of humanity's most valued resources. In many communities, fires were rarely allowed to go out completely. Instead, people carefully preserved hot coals. These coals could be transported from place to place and used to restart fires later. Some groups carried embers during long journeys. Others buried hot coals beneath ash to keep them alive overnight. Protecting fire became a daily responsibility. Losing it could mean repeating hours of difficult work, or worse, facing a cold night without warmth. But fire offered far more than comfort. As humans learned to control it, something extraordinary began to happen. Their entire way of life started to change. Cooked food became possible, and that simple change may have transformed human evolution forever. Before humans learned to cook, eating was a very different experience. Most foods had to be chewed raw. Meat was tough. Roots were difficult to digest. Many plants contained toxins that made them dangerous to consume. Obtaining enough calories required enormous effort. Every day was a struggle to find enough food to survive. Then fire changed everything. At some point, ancient humans discovered that food placed near flames became softer, easier to chew, easier to digest, and often much safer to eat. Cooking broke down tough fibers, killed harmful bacteria, and allowed the body to extract more energy from every meal. This may seem like a small improvement. In reality, it was revolutionary. Many scientists believe cooking played a major role in the development of the human brain. The human brain consumes a tremendous amount of energy, far more than most other animals. Without a reliable source of calories, supporting such a large and complex organ would have been difficult. Cooked food helped solve that problem. For the first time, humans could gain more nutrition while spending less energy chewing and digesting. Over thousands of generations, this advantage may have contributed to the growth of larger brains and more complex societies. In a strange way, every modern city, every scientific discovery, and every technological achievement can be traced back to a simple campfire. But fire changed more than food. It changed where humans could live. Before fire, cold environments presented enormous challenges. Surviving harsh winters required constant movement or extraordinary luck. After humans learned to control fire, entirely new regions became accessible. People could survive freezing temperatures. They could sleep through cold nights. They could establish camps in places that would have previously been impossible. Fire expanded the boundaries of the human world, and wherever humans traveled, fire traveled with them. As populations spread across continents, fire became a constant companion. Around campfires, stories were shared, skills were taught, plans were made. Knowledge was passed from one generation to the next. Some researchers believe that the campfire may have helped shape human language itself. During the day, survival demanded attention. People hunted, gathered food, built shelters, avoided dangers. But at night, gathered around the warmth of a fire, there was finally time to communicate, to teach, to imagine, to remember. The campfire became humanity's first classroom, its first meeting room, its first place of storytelling, and perhaps even its first theater. For thousands of years, fire sat at the center of human life. It provided warmth, protection, food, light, and community. Without it, survival became dramatically more difficult. With it, entirely new possibilities emerged. Yet despite its importance, making fire remained a difficult skill. Even experienced individuals could fail under poor conditions. A sudden storm, wet wood, strong winds, a simple mistake. Any of these could turn a routine task into a serious problem. That is why ancient people respected fire. They understood something that modern society often forgets. Fire was never guaranteed. It had to be earned, protected, maintained, and understood. Every flame represented effort, knowledge, and responsibility. Today we can create fire with a simple movement of our hand. A lighter, a match, a button. The process feels effortless, but for most of human history, it was one of the most valuable abilities a person could possess. A skill learned through patience, mastered through practice, and passed down through countless generations. Without it, humanity's story would look very different. There would be no warm homes, no cooked meals, no cities glowing at night, no factories, no engines, no modern civilization. The road from primitive campfires to the modern world is longer than most people realize, but it began with a single spark, a spark that ancient humans fought tirelessly to create, a spark that transformed survival into progress, and a spark that ultimately changed the course of human history forever.